And we are live. Knock it off. So, welcome to, what is it, episode 79 of An American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf, and we've got Bill Zabubba in the house tonight, and John K. Alvarez. Same face, less fuzzy. This isn't a reflection, so it was Zaravala K. Naj yesterday, and we seem to have remedied that particular situation, which is good, from one day to the next. Yeah, I mean, it's funny, Bill. No, I was just thinking, Bill was here for episode 2,
right?
When we did Dracula.
So long ago.
Yeah, we were doing Zoom calls. We were pre-recording Zoom calls and then uploading. I was like, a new episode every Saturday, and it was, we've moved a couple of steps from there, but
it was kind of cool time.
Indeed. And then, John, you came in, I think, somewhere around, episode 10 for Cabin in the Woods.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was before we were doing, live streaming. We were just doing the uploads. So, yeah, here we are, episode 79, 2022. Very cool. Last night, we were here with 78 talking Kubrick and The Shining.
Mm-hmm.
And we started off, I started off the conversation by referring back to our top 10, which we were just talking about before we went on the air, favorite horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that we talked about, one, nobody picked in their top 10 The Shining, which was the movie we were actually covering. Mm-hmm. But for the purposes of this discussion, I think by the time we got to number 5, Bill's pick was John Carpenter's Halloween, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. It was in there, yeah.
Yeah, and he made a reference to Michael Myers being a demon, which is something that I hadn't considered before. And that really gave me some thought and some pause and some consideration. And because I guess when I was thinking of demons and, the movies, you're thinking of Pazuzu or, Baal or, Abalam, depending on which movie you're watching, they make reference to the demon's name, this, that, and the other. But the more I sort of thought about it a lot, and that's popped into my head from time to time because, I do this now, with this show. I really thought of it when I don't even know if this is what you had in mind, man, but I was thinking in terms of a demon just being absolute evil.
Yeah.
And that Myers was absolute evil, sort of manifesting himself in human form, who just on this one night escapes from a mental hospital and descends on this town. And he's there to rip, and he's there to slash, and he's there to murder. And so that's why he's there, because he is absolute evil. It has nothing to do with the later stories about Laurie being his sister and his cousin. And, by the time you get to episode 70, part 75, or like what Zombie did with the, the screwed up back, he humanized Michael Myers, whereas John Carpenter just sort of made him this shape.
Yeah, we're talking 1 and 2. There's no other movies that exist in my universe.
That's fair.
Canon. It doesn't exist, just like everything before Disney Star Wars.
That's fair. And what really is alarming is the idea that evil can't die. You can't kill evil.
Right.
You can't. And that's why Myers takes a crocheting needle in the eye and keeps on moving. That's why I think he takes a butcher knife in the stomach and he keeps on moving. Donald Pleasance shoots him like 3 or 4 times in the chest. He falls off a 2-story balcony and he keeps on moving, which is how the story ends, which really, when you think about it, I have to watch this now, just bearing in mind this idea of absolute evil. How frightening that actually is, which is probably what, he intended 50 years ago, but I'm just catching on now. So evil can't die, absolute evil. That's scary. And then I thought about a martial arts seminar I was at back in 04 and 05. This is a true story. And the guy who was running the seminar up around your area, up around Spring Lake, I guess we were talking about grappling or something like that. And he said there's that old proverb of catching a tiger by the tail.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you think that you're in control. He goes, but it's not really that way. He goes, because sure, you got the tiger by the tail, but now the tiger's going to turn around.
Right.
And now the tiger's got you too. You know, and he's like, good luck to you from there.
Yeah.
So I thought, I was thinking that, and then, you know, we get to this movie and I'm thinking, okay, we've got a guy here who seems to have grabbed absolute evil by the tail. And what exactly would that be like? And I think it would be like this movie, Josh Lobo's I Trapped the Devil.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're ready, shall we get it going?
Let us begin.
Boogie woogie. So, just like in The Witch, we talked about the idea that sometimes evil doesn't have to do much. It can just sit back and watch you unravel. And when I first saw this movie, you know, I was just kind of blown away by, you know, how minimalist it was, and how little, you know, the evil, you know, antagonist in here really had to do. I mean, you know, it almost does absolutely nothing, and yet you've got what I consider to be a really solid horror flick.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, what was your impression? What was your take when you got to it? Either of you?
I thought it was a really, really good idea. It was very interesting. It lost me at the execution. I know that might be a hot take. I'm not trying to give you a hot take, but
no.
I saw it for the first time 2 days ago, and I was really excited at first with the premise, but then it sort of ground down to a halt trying to get to making a point or getting somewhere. Maybe I was just being impatient with it, but it did not. It was scary in that the cinematography and the music, and I felt all those beats. I just felt like the performances let me down, and sort of the points were sort of a little bit, you know, not hitting me the right way, I guess.
Okay, all right, John.
To me, I have to admit, when I was first watching it, in the beginning, I was like, all right, come on, give me a little more. And then I realized my head started going with it. You were talking about the tiger by the tail story. To me, this was the fable. Like, did you ever tell somebody, said, okay, I want you to sit there for 5 minutes and think of anything except for a white horse running in a field?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's all you think about?
Yeah.
It's amazing when he said, I caught the devil. And as I'm waiting for it to, you know, to not do something, this stuff was happening. And all of a sudden I realized I'm thinking in my head, what is this? I started getting in closer to try to find it. And I realized, oh shit, it's in my head. The movie or the idea of it got in my head. So to me, the concept of less is more, it was kind of, they had lovely images, but they were letting you like complete the script, to me anyway, or complete the story, because it was in your head. It's like what you said, what would be the devil or what would be evil, you know? And if you think about it, what would that be? And in my head, I'm going, oh shit, it's like the not to jump ahead with the storyline, but with the TV flickering,
Yeah.
with the different images,
Yeah.
each one started coming clearer and clearer and clearer as the movie went on, and in my head, so did my image of what was behind that door.
Yeah.
To me, it was a very lovely trick.
I thought that, and I'm not here to dispute anyone's point. I thought that, and I saw a lot of reviews on this movie, and people were kind of annoyed because they said nothing happened. They're like, I waited and I waited and I waited, and then it just kind of ended, and then nothing happened. But for me, that was the whole idea, in the sense that nothing needed to happen. We talked about this when we talked about Dorff. If you're thousands, if not millions of years old, you're playing the long game.
Sure.
And I think, Bill, when we were talking about this a while ago, I trapped the devil, and you're like, yeah, he's trapped,
Yeah.
So, and that was what I was thinking. I'm like, he's like, okay, sure. I'm stuck in the basement, whatever you say.
I got it.
I'm completely at your mercy, yeah, sure. Please let me out. Please. I'm very desperate for this kind of thing.
I kind of had that. Within the first 5 minutes, I knew where this thing was going to go. Where I went, okay, I see what you're going to do. So bring me there. And it didn't bring me there.
I'm not sure where there is. What do you mean by that?
I don't know. It didn't seem like it showed the breakdown of the brothers, of the guy, of the wife. I didn't see enough of that bond falling apart. It didn't establish enough of, what is this devil playing on in their lives that, it could sort of manipulate them and make them fall apart like that. It seemed like a fait accompli where, there's a devil and he's using his influence, but it didn't make it apparent to me that, what these things are. And I'm not sure how they could have done it, but it just left me flat. Like it was like a beeline for this last 5 minutes in the movie where you go, yeah, I know that's what's going to happen, but it didn't seem to lay out the trap so that we, the audience, could follow along and see what the devil was up to.
I think the entire thing. Well, all right. So let's because I could go back.
Go ahead.
But hold on a second. We start off with the distortions through the television set.
Right.
And I was reminded of the old days when you would try to watch Cinemax. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever tried, like after 12 o'clock, it was on Cinemax after a little while. And,
tell us, Uncle Mike.
It's like the Witch in the Sears catalog,
Yes.
So, I have no idea what you're talking about. But, these things that you can't quite see and that, you can't quite understand. There's clearly something there. But you're not going to understand it. You're not supposed to understand it because it's beyond what it is that you're supposed to be able to understand, to interpret, whatever you want to call it. I think instead of some sort of action or the need for unnecessary breakdown, what we had was a man. He's like, okay, I'm stuck in the basement. But I can bring people to your door, and people that really don't have a connection. I got the impression that there was no need for any breakdown of the relationship because I'll be honest, I don't think that they had much of I think that was the point that I got out of it. They didn't have much of a relationship to begin with.
And why would he? Then why would he spend that much time in clearly an unhealthy situation?
Who?
The guy and his wife. Why would they stay the night? Why would they go there and subject themselves to this guy's ramblings if they didn't have a relationship? There's got to be something there that's keeping him there, some hope, something that he wants to accomplish and help this guy.
Well, one, it's his brother.
Yeah.
Which is sufficient.
That's not enough.
I think it is.
I think it is only because of the way he said it. He didn't want to come in the beginning.
Yeah.
As she said, I brought him here. I made him come. We were talking about that last night, Mike, when I said I thought she was actually the devil's minion.
Yeah.
And she was part of
they
the,
could be work.
But when he said what it was, and she said, "Let's get out," it was the brother who said, "Well, wait a minute." Like a brother kind of would. Even with that, believe me, I'm from a huge family. I caught that.
That's what I was going to ask. I was like, what would you do?
I would argue with my one brother left and right, but if somebody came in and trashed me without missing a beat, he would spin and defend me. Yeah, he's a dick, but he's my dick. That type, and jump in and defend. He wasn't, to me, the younger brother, who I assume who was the one that was married, said he always, he always had these issues. Not with the devil, but being an isolationist and being, just slightly off.
Right. They're clearly estranged.
But when he said, let's leave him, and he's like, no. Yeah. Maybe let's as a brother would try to help him.
Because here's a question outside of the story. What do you do in a situation like that? Mm-hmm. You go to, because like he forces the door open. And for me, like when that started off, I'm like, wow, that's like way fucking pushy. Like he's not answering the door, so his brother literally forces the door open, like pushes the debris and all the things that he has blocking the door. And I'm thinking, because I'm an only child, I don't have a brother, I don't have any sisters. Does family do that? What would a brother, or a sibling do in a situation like that who dropped by on Christmas? Figured that you were at home, I'm asking because I know you guys have siblings. Would they push their way in?
Metaphorically, that's the point. He's forcing himself on him when he clearly doesn't want him there.
Well, hold on. I literally am asking the question: Would a brother do that sort of thing?
In my family, Michael, my situation, my one sister, Teresa, her door is always open. I doubt it very much, I think, when I've ever knocked on her door to walk in. I just literally come into the house. And Paul, Paul and I get along very well, but I always knock on his door. Because I know Paul likes, his privacy type deal.
Right.
My brother Joe's the same way. My sister Tina gave me a key. If they're not there, you can let yourself in. You know where everything is. It really depends, I think, on who that person is. I think it was funny that when the brother pushed through the door, and he's like, God damn it. I think he was more angry at the fact, like, what the fuck are you doing, you idiot? Not that the door was blocked or locked or put together. Schmuck, clean up the house and lock the door.
For me, though. Yeah. Was that the parents' house?
Yeah. I thought
the attitude of the brother showing up was, I have as much right to be here as you. I took it as, the mentally ill brother is living in the parents' house, and I'm waiting for this. Oh, there was a tragedy among the parents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't
think my one brother yelled at me when he said, how come you locked the door when I was living in my parents' house after they passed away? And I'm like, because I was taking a shower. I didn't want anybody walking in on me.
I'll be honest. If I was living in like my parents' house, if I had a brother or anything like that, but if I was living in the house, like I would lock the fucking door.
Mm.
It
really depends on.
I actually really live here.
I think it depends on who that person is. My one sister always tells me, when you come over, come on in. My door's always open. That's always been her philosophy, and she's been very true to that.
I think that the
I think that's why the younger brother was surprised too, because it was blocked and locked.
It was blocked and locked. It seems like they hadn't spoken to each other in at least a year.
A year, okay.
The one brother doesn't want to come over, so whoever is sitting down in this basement says, "Okay, I'm locked in the basements. I'm going to bring the most intrusive person that to your fucking door because it's not a serious thing to me." And I remember Eric was talking about, he was doing a review on his YouTube channel. He does like 6 or 10 minute reviews for like movies. And he did that end of days thing. the one that Schwarzenegger did when Gabriel Byrne was the devil.
Mhm.
And at the end, you have the big reveal in the church, and Gabriel Byrne shows who he really is, which is this enormous, beast, and he's black, and there's smoke billowing up everywhere from the underworld, and all this different stuff. There's nothing here. It's just I'm going to keep calling on the phone.
I always also think I'm sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
I'm going to keep calling on the phone. Okay, that's not doing anything. Okay, I'm going to bring the most intrusive person, probably the last person you want to see, to your door, and have them push themselves in. Just these little things that I'm going to do. I'm just going to gradually just, keep working you, and somebody's going to open this door.
Yeah.
Because to me, I don't have to burst out of the floor like an End of Days of the basement of the church.
Right.
It doesn't make a difference to me. Okay, fine. We'll play it, make it into a little bit of a game. That kind of thing.
That's. I'm sorry, Bill. I thought you were getting ready to jump in. Go ahead.
Nope. Go ahead.
No, I like the fact that it's that subtle. Sometimes, yes, you can always have, the big creature coming, or the smoke and the billows, so that's fun, and that's great. But when you have the complete thing that you're least expecting, not to shift too quick off this show or this movie, but there was a show that was called Supernatural, and when you saw the devil, it was funny because he was staying in a room that was cold. It was frigid. And he turned around and said, people keep thinking I like the heat. It's quite the opposite. I like the cold. And I know some people who, when they watched that episode with me, they were going, well, I don't like that because that's against, I said, what? Your teachings, other movies? They did a spin on it. I mean, I love that fact of going against what we would consider. I love the fact of your image. All right, fine, I'm the devil. Go ahead. You guys fight it out. I'll just sit here. And when it's done, I'm still going to get out.
For the sake of clarity, we should say that this the plot of this movie is essentially, as we got right off into the conversation.
Sorry.
It's about this man who literally believes that the devil has manifested himself in human form, and he has trapped him in the basement behind this enormous door, and he's padlocked. You see, he's got 3 different padlocks on it, and this enormous cross. And
Great door.
This is this has this vibe of just kind of dread throughout the whole thing. It's a humorless movie. There's no humor at all in this movie. Somehow they even, because it occurs at Christmas, so we're a couple of weeks past that, but somehow they even make Christmas lights turning on usually the most cheerful thing in the world.
Right.
There's nothing more cheerful than a house when, the Christmas lights come on. Somehow that even seems frightening and disturbing. And so this man is starting to understand, like the tiger by the tail, analogy, that he may actually, what am I going to do now? Now what? Now what am I supposed to do? His brother asks him that at one point. What are you going to do? You're just going to keep him down there forever? What exactly is the plan here? And he realizes that he doesn't have one. And so the phone keeps ringing incessantly. Nobody ever seems to be on the other end of the phone. That's freaking him out. So he's starting to get, paranoid. His anxiety is clearly up. And just at that moment where he's trying to figure out what to do, his estranged brother and his sister-in-law decide to show up to try to reconcile at Christmas. And it's just, and that's where kind of the story begins. And it's quite a flick. I find that I didn't like the brother and the sister. I thought that they were kind of intrusive and overbearing. I especially I really didn't like his wife, who went like nosing through the apartment, like looking under his bed, You're like,
Mhm.
what the hell is this? She's like digging through the shoe boxes under his bed and like in his cupboards and closets and all this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And so you're wondering where for me, I was wondering where the independent action ends and like the influenced action,
Mhm.
kind of, where the line is between the two.
Right.
Yeah,
I think
I didn't really even think about it being sorry. I didn't really even think about it being the devil was influencing them. They were just there. They were just being them up to a
Mhm.
certain point. Her nosing around in his stuff seemed to be, she's
Mhm.
just an unlikable person, and the brother is just completely like detached. I thought that was all natural. It didn't get to the influence stuff until the voice started talking for me.
Hmm. The
Which
the
is,
the go ahead.
well, no, like to me, that's a good way to do it because it's already disturbed. The situation's already disturbed.
Yeah.
So there's not much that if the evil devil, whatever, all he has to do is swirl his finger a little bit, and they're going off on their own.
Yeah.
When Mike, when you were first telling me about this movie, and I went out to find it, I said, "Boy, this reminds me of a Twilight Zone,
Right.
where the guy
Yeah.
said he caught
Yeah.
the devil." But as I'm watching it, I said, "It does remind me of another Twilight Zone. The monsters come out on Mulberry Street."
Yes.
Because they were already and it was amazing because the devil didn't have to tempt them or just drop little hint, and they were going at each other.
Yeah.
Just
turn off the lights and they'll destroy themselves.
Yeah, turning off the lights and flicking the, he was sitting in the kitchen, the lights went out, like pop, 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 and got all, that's all he had to do because they were already on the verge of being at each other's throats.
Right.
So do you think it was a coincidence that the brother and the sister-in-law show up, or is that an influenced action? Because the brother kept saying someone is coming.
Yeah.
I get this. Someone, he goes, I don't understand what's happening here, but like he has this like brute paranoid, vibe that something's going to happen. He's calling someone for help.
Right.
And so is it the brother? Is it the family?
What family? I thought it was just the two of them.
Well, that's what I mean. So he's in there by himself. So is it the brother and the sister-in-law? Is that who's coming to just kind of, is that his expression of tapping the Jenga stack, or is that just something that's happening on its own?
I think both. It's just happenstance that,
Happenstance, really?
Yeah.
Well, it's Christmas. They're estranged.
I mean, you have the
vaguely mentally ill. That sort of seems like a cliche beat. Like the family's going to show up and they're going to try and, help him.
Over the bridge and through the woods.
I didn't get that at all. Okay, all right. I didn't get that at all.
To me, it's also and of course the devil would be like, if there was a conversation going on before they walked in the door, and he goes, "Oh, look who pulled in the driveway," and he wouldn't know, and he would go upstairs, and the brother comes walking in. Did I do it, or was it already there?
I got to
the had evil in the room, or was it always around?
Well, I mean, we find out when we go up into the attic.
Yeah.
That he's been mapping this out for a long time, and this reminded
felt tedious to me, man. That felt tedious, and I kept thinking of the "It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia" scene that looks exactly like that. The walls look exactly like that in that episode. So
there's an X-File that goes back about 20 years before that called Folie à Deux, where this man is convinced that his boss is a monster.
Right.
And he's been tracking his boss. This is in the days before the internet, across the country, and he has this map across the country. And he has the string and the yarn of where this, man has been moving. And, all these catastrophes have been happening at this place, like every place that he works. I didn't mind it. And it sort of tapped into the fact that, yeah, I mean, he's clearly unstable and isolated out there, but it also tapped into the fact that I think he was right. You know, he was right in the concept that, you know, it broke down into like sort of two types of evil. You know, there was man's evil, and then there was, you know, pure evil. Because as batshit as this was, somebody was down there in that basement.
Right.
It didn't take away.
I'm sorry, Mike. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go right ahead. No, go.
On the previous, see, I've seen this scenario or this setup in a lot of different movies. Christ, even A Brilliant Mind, they used it.
Right. It's kind of a worn out trope for me.
But the thing is, there was other things in the room that were drawing my attention that made it really creepy for me.
Yeah.
Yes, you had the red thing and everything else. There's a jack-o'-lantern in the corner. There's a rocking horse in the corner. Things from childhood. Because I'm going, Christ, did this guy go through this his whole life? He didn't know what it was until he started reading that book and getting into it. I love the projector.
I don't think they had to go whole hog with the conspiracy yarn. It was already creepy at that point. I mean, I love the fact that it's a vaguely 80s setting, right? This creepy old house. There's the deer head, which is straight out of Evil Dead, that drew my attention right away. But there's Christmas decorations, but the windows are covered over with newspaper, so it was already super creepy. The juxtaposition between crazy and normal. I mean, this guy's he's got a devil in the basement. He's clearly mentally unstable, but he took the time to put up a tree and decorate it and put the lights nice. You know, that was freaking me out more than, oh, let's go in the attic and see your theories on evil.
I had the impression, Mike. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go.
No, when you were saying about the Christmas decorations, I'm like, the question I have is, how long has the devil been there? You know, like maybe he had the decorations up, caught the devil, and that's when he started covering up the papers. And I'm going, maybe it could have been a few days ago, could have been an hour, could have been a month ago. You never know. He just said, I caught the devil.
I was kind of waiting for the reveal that it was Easter time, you know, and that Christmas decorations were only up in his house, you know.
The impression that I got, this guy had suffered some sort of tragedy, and I think it was the death of his wife. Did anybody else pick up on that?
I caught that too.
It was the death of his wife, and so, you know, he's always been a little shaky.
Yeah.
But then this other thing had happened, you know, where he suffered this loss and tragedy, and maybe even a kid, maybe his wife and child had died.
Yeah, definitely a kid.
Yeah, but then my impression was kind of similar to John's in that I think he was okay. Well, I mean, he had this thing going on in the basement, so clearly he's not okay. Yeah. But the thing in the basement was a relatively new development.
Yeah.
That was a relative, because I think whoever is down there in that basement isn't going to stay there for very long.
Right. Yeah. He didn't they're not going to evil with the red yarn, you know, yesterday, and when he caught the devil.
Yeah.
So he's doing this crazy stuff in the attic, but he's still putting up the Christmas decorations, and he's covering the windows. All of that is creepy and effective.
Yeah. So I mean, like the sense of dread that's in that basement and the use of the red light.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, the voice starts coming, you know, from behind the door, you know, please let me out. You know, I just want to get back to my family, you know, and then when it was like that thing I was talking about where the mask slips just for a second, you know, and he's like, oh, are you really blaming me for what I did to them? You know, and he just starts laughing, and that woman's down there because she's going to let him out, you know, and then she's like, well, wait a minute, you know, something feels off here. Right. You know, and then eventually he ends up saying, you know, if because I think eventually he gets tired of fighting them. He's like, you know, you can let us see whatever it wants to show us.
Right.
You know, whatever it is. And you get the impression even he doesn't know exactly what it is that he's got back behind there. Right. And then, you know, I mean, eventually, because here's another question. If you're his brother or his sister-in-law, because the sister-in-law just annoyed me because she was like, "You forced us into this position, or you dragged us into this," and you're like, "What?"
No, you did.
Like, wait a minute, what? Like, you're nosing under my, you're going
Yeah.
under my bed, and we're not leaving, and all this other stuff. Here's a question though: do you leave? Do you leave your brother?
That's the question. It's different between leaving a stranger.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
even a buddy or something like that. But I mean, your brother's got somebody.
Friend, it would be, but you're leaving your brother. It's like Cain and Abel. Am I my brother's keeper?
Yeah, your brother's got somebody locked in the basement, and you're like, even if you don't believe it's the devil, your brother's got somebody locked in the basement.
Do you try to help him out before that, or do you, like he said, we can let him out. I can give him a check.
Yeah,
and just pay him off and say go home.
Yeah,
sorry about this. He was trying to do, and I think when he saw his brother getting worse, and it's funny because it's the younger brother syndrome. He's following the older brother like the hero. There's the older brother syndrome and the younger brother syndrome. It was the younger brother. The older brother would want to help because I protected him his whole life. That type deal. But with the younger brother, he wants to help. But even he, at one point in time, was saying, all right, it's enough. And that eventually got him stabbed. I know I went off a little bit on a tangent of that on you, Michael, but the point about it was it's different when it's your family.
Yeah, that's an interesting conundrum. I mean, do you call the police?
Mm-hmm.
My brother needs help. Please send an ambulance and the police. My brother's got someone locked in, in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on a second. We've got some comments here. We've got the Still Drifter. So good morning from Ireland. So thank you very much for stopping by.
Good morning,
we appreciate you. We hope you're a fan of the movie, or if not, you'll tell us why necessarily. That's always cool. Different points of view are always good. And then we've got Kimberly Patty, who's saying, "Voy FYI." I'm not exactly sure what that means, Kimberly, but okay. Feel free to continue.
She's probably complaining about my beard.
Yeah, that's it. You're not Zaravula, K. Naj anymore. She's confused about all this.
I'm not Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Yeah, he needs a 2x4.
That's it.
So I mean, from there, once that starts, eventually it just ramps up to the point where they start turning on each other.
Yeah,
and he ends up stabbing his own brother because his brother's now determined that he's going to let that person out. And for a split second, the older brother's okay with it, and then when it starts to happen, he's like, "Well, no, please." And then I honestly didn't think he was gonna. I didn't. Well, maybe I did. I don't remember exactly what happened with the knife. He just stabs him.
Yeah.
And then the wife shoots the brother.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so people just start going off the board. So because there's basically only 3 people in this whole movie, and whoever it is behind the door. And then the cops show up.
Right.
The cop shoots the woman. The woman shoots the cop. There's one cop left.
Mm-hmm.
The voice from the door, continues. Open the door. Please open the door. He opens the door. And that sigh comes out from behind the door.
Yeah.
And that's where it should have ended. But oh my God, a little girl skipping and humming. That's so creepy. We had to put that in.
I didn't think it was creepy at all.
If they just stopped right there with the sighing and the cop's face just sort of falling.
That would have worked, but it wasn't creepy for me. To me, it just showed that the whole thing was just child's play. It was a game.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I got out of that. I'm like, these people are killing each other.
Mm-hmm.
Brothers are killing brothers.
So seriously.
Yeah, families are a whole family just got wiped off the table, and it's all the seriousness of whoever's in that basement is taking this with all the seriousness of a little girl just skipping down the street.
Mm-hmm. I'm playing with you.
Yeah, this is not Gabriel Byrne manifesting in some giant manifestation of himself. Mm-hmm. There's no pea soup flying. This is the long game.
Yep.
I just made you wipe your whole family off the table with a couple of phone calls
Right.
and some distortion on the Cinemax. And I just made you kill your whole family. And that's what he says. You know, when you get to the pure evil, it's like the 0.1%. It's just influence.
Yeah.
It's just
funny.
influence. 99.9 is just the everyday shit that people do every day. Guy killed his, you slept with my wife. Bang. You cheated me out of some money. You cheated me in business. Bang. But there's that 0.1% where it's just a little bit of influence, and I'm going to poke the Jenga stack a little bit, and I'm just going to let you all fall apart because it means absolutely nothing to me.
And that was always.
That's why
I'm sorry, Mike. Go ahead. I interrupted.
No, go.
Well, you were talking. That's always been the genuine quote unquote power of the devil. If you hear stories about it, outside of the Judeo-Christian faith, he's always tempting. He's always pushing. It's always like a whisper in the ear. I mean, when the brother stabbed the other brother, and then the sister-in-law shot the brother who did the stabbing, the older brother turned around and said, "I'm sorry that I did that," to her before he dies. He apologizes. I don't know why I did. And then the voice behind the door is talking to the sister-in-law.
Yeah.
And she looked like she was ready to let him out. And then she sat down and focused the gun, and the voice laughed. And you got to admit, I almost got you. I love that guy.
That was a good scene. I did enjoy that.
Yeah. Almost.
I almost got you.
I was like, yeah.
I was like, I always talk about one of my favorite interpretations of the devil is Al Pacino in The Devil's Advocate.
Yeah.
And it's the scene where he's on the train and the one guy pulls a gun on him and goes, "Why do you want to go do that? Your best friend's fucking your wife. Why don't you take that home and take care of business?" And the guy looks at him and walks off. Doesn't force him, no big deal, just says it.
Yeah.
Oh, and I love
you
that.
get the impression it's probably what Pacino told him was probably true.
Yeah.
He said, if you make it home right now, you can catch him.
You can catch him. Use that gun there.
That's what he said. He goes, you'd never think of me as a master of the universe.
Yeah, you never think of me as and that's the point. I thought a lot of that when I was watching this, because you never saw it. Yeah. Even when the girl goes skipping away, you never saw her face. I thought initially it was like, oh my God, it's Wednesday Adam. It was just, but it's because it had that look. Just skips by, and I was like, holy shit.
Well,
just playing with it.
What he says to her at the end, he goes, you have all this useless information, but the only real certainty that you'll ever have is that you'll never fully understand why.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even tell you what the why is.
Yeah, exactly.
And, that relates constantly to to me, to the distortions on the TV. Mm-hmm. It's never going to be clear to you. You're never going to understand because, this guy's at a different level. Whatever's down there in the basement is playing on a completely different level. And so, within what, a couple of hours, he gets a whole family to just kill themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, okay, fine. You want to keep me in the basement? Sure.
I actually would say it was real time. I would say it was like an hour and a half. He did it.
He might have. I don't know.
But I was thinking of like we were talking about the images, the distorted images. Like each time they went to that, the images got clearer and clearer and clearer.
Yeah, it seems like you almost see Santa Claus. A man dressed in a Santa outfit, and you're like, what the hell is that? And then, I labeled this one Visions of Sugar Plums because he shows that guy his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And he almost shoots his brother and his sister-in-law there because he knows that vision that he's seeing isn't who it looks like. But, I mean, again.
You're not real. You're not real. You're not real. I mean. Yeah. I found that so creepy because it was just a repetitive line.
It's just with all the intensity of a little kid skipping down the street.
Just completely outmatched.
At least that was my take on it.
I'm just playing with you.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
almost had you. Yeah, I almost had you.
I
I
almost
almost had you.
I'm like, that
So-
line fucked me up. I was like, shit. Because if you think about it, if you ever confront the devil, or I mean, what is it? Usual Suspects. The best trick the devil did was make people not believe him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're ever confronting somebody who is like that cold, man, this close.
Yeah.
You're fucked. Thank you. That to me is what. And now, were there problems with this movie? Yes.
Yeah.
But there were some moments that were good. I'm going, I kind of dug it. They were
This was
letting a
better
lot of it go with also your imagination. A lot of stuff I'm coming up with is my own, belief and what have you. And I think that's what kind of helps build or put together the story. Did
This
it work
movie
all the time? Not always, but in some cases, yeah.
This movie came out in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like the same year as Hereditary. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think you're on completely different levels there. But it also I thought it was better than a lot of other movies that came out at that time, which was like that Halloween 2018, the one where they brought Jamie Lee Curtis back, and that was like the big blockbuster. I thought it was better than that Natalie Portman thing that they did with Oscar Isaac on Netflix, Annihilation. There were quite a few big budget movies that came out that year, and I thought that this was a lot better than those.
The premise is a lot better, but for something that is essentially a parlor or drawing room drama, I thought the acting had to be 10 notches better to pull it off. I don't think the actors pulled off what they could have, or what it could have been if you had I don't know. I don't even want to throw out names, but just someone on a higher level of acting.
Well, I mean, this is a small movie, and this is a first-time director and writer.
Yeah,
right.
So
I mean, I get it.
You know who would make a great older brother? Lance Henriksen. The guy that was in Terminator.
Oh God, yeah. Lance Henriksen. I was trying to find.
He would be that intense. It's the intense look that the older brother had was sad. Lance Henriksen could bounce back and forth. What was the show he did on Fox that followed the X-Files? Where he was that way.
Millennium.
He was slightly psychic and he could go back and forth. Ironically, there was a show from Millennium where it was four guys sitting around a table drinking coffee in a coffee shop, and you realize there were different demons that were going out and tempting them. And in one scene, he said that it's one demon because he recognized them as a demon. How sad you must be. See, it's the humanization of, I think to me is what made it work for me. There was kind of a dysfunctional family all of a sudden put in a dysfunctional situation. And with what little coping mechanisms that they had to deal with it. There was no other way out for that.
Well, I mean, I think you got out of it what was in it. It was a small,
I
independent
enjoyed
movie
it.
with a good idea, and I think it had a really good vibe, and I think it was a good idea, and I don't think it was badly performed. I'm looking at other movies that came out that year: The Nun.
Let me give one.
Halloween.
Because Bill was talking about it before, about the actors or the acting in it.
I've never seen those performers before.
This was an above average student film.
Yeah,
Because I've seen student films that had great story ideas and everything else, but it was the inexperience of the actors that had a hard time pulling it off. These folks had a little more experience. It was above that, but it wasn't at Hereditary level.
Right.
But if you gave it to somebody with those intensity, type of acting skills, it could be, or
better performers could have lifted it.
Could have
lifted it, but you had, who you had, and I'm not going to put him down because I bought a copy of the movie just from my perspective. But
I'm not going to put them down because I think they were working. They were giving their all. And number two,
Yeah.
I wasn't cast in it, so they're one step better than me.
Yeah, I didn't write it either. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
hear
it's
you.
you can't complain really.
No,
At that. It was a
the writer
really
and
cool
director.
attempt.
The writer and director is a guy named Josh Lobo, and I connected with him on Twitter. Talking about the movie. I sent him a DM, but I can see he didn't read it, and I asked him if maybe he would pop in for 5 minutes just to discuss it with us, because he seems to have a very small following. It's like under 2,000 people on Twitter. I don't even most horror people, most horror and horror fans don't even know about this movie.
That's a
it's one of
sandbag
those.
moment. Hey, Bill, here he is. Whoa!
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No.
Humming. It was okay.
What do you mean my movie sucked?
Yeah. It doesn't suck. I think it's a damn solid movie. Is it a perfect movie or is it the best movie of 2018? No. Does it have some holes in it? Yeah. But it's definitely worthwhile. I mean, like I said, I ended up buying a copy of it. And it's one of those movies where, I'd like to watch it without interruption with the lights off. It's one of those because it's got great atmospherics.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
again, to me, this connects into all the other things that I was talking about before with the witch, just tapping the Jenga, the tiger by the tail, the long game, Dorff, just playing it cool because he doesn't have to do anything else. And for me, like the actions in the film sort of, kind of cover me.
Speaking of the witch, the music and the sound effects in this movie were brilliant. Though they got the same effect that the witch had, where seemingly nothing's happening, but that creepy music is tugging at your emotions, and it's bringing you to a place where you're nervous and you feel off, just like the characters feel off.
I'm gonna have to text you guys. I found 2 movies recently with the mother from The Witch. And one of them she's like she's Guinevere in The Green Knight.
Oh, okay.
She's a much older Arthur and Guinevere are old in the A24 interpretation of The Green Knight. She's Guinevere and she's very, very regal. She plays it extremely well. I mean, she's like King Arthur's Guinevere. You're like, wow, this is a real queen.
Yeah.
And then I saw her in a werewolf, a very strange werewolf movie. I got to send you guys the link to it. It's good.
What's it called?
I can't remember off the top of my head. I got to look it up again. I saw it, and it's set in Scotland or Ireland, but it's in Edinburgh. It's set in the city, so it's not like she's like a witch.
Cool.
And it's actually pretty interesting. It's not
Stay off the motor.
Well, I think that's a pretty good place to bring it to a close. It's a movie with mixed reviews. I would argue, it's available on Hulu. So if you have Hulu, I think it's worth the 90 minutes to sit down and watch it and check it out, and decide for yourself.
But wait 5 years till Snyder redoes it with Brad Pitt and Matt Damon.
Oh, God, please. Yeah. Let's not.
I'm kidding.
All right. Well, my thanks to Billsy Bubba once again for stopping in to shoot the shit about some horror movies, and then John K. Alvarez for stopping in tonight and shooting the breeze for a little bit. It's always fun. This podcast has moved all the way. It's wherever podcasts are available. That's where you can find us nowadays. We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, Google Podcasts, just about anywhere. Any of the podcast engines, you can find us. Next week, we will be back, I think, with the single show only, 30 Days of Night. So the cold and scary as fuck sub-thread continues, and that's a damn solid vampire movie, and I can't wait to get into it. So my thanks to both of you. And to everyone else out there, peace.
Peace out.